Yo, what's going on, everybody? Hope everybody is doing well. Today I'm going to be discussing the EIDOLON cold bounty and how to do it solo, or specifically how I like to do it solo. I'm not going to spend too much time on the setup because I feel like the setup is pretty simple at the end of the day. Whenever you're fighting EIDOLONs, you typically bring Volt. I'm sure you could bring other Warframes, but for this video, of course, I'm going to recommend the Warframe that I bring when I do EIDOLON hunts, which is Volt. And then when it comes to your operator school, you want to make sure you're running the Madurai operator school, and you want to make sure you have the Void Strike ability. This gives you a 1000% damage buff for 8 seconds, and that's going to allow your amp to do a lot of damage. And when it comes to your amp, you want to make sure that you have an amp that has the proper scaffold and the Certus brace. I feel like there are many amps that can still get the job done, especially if you have Void Strike. But again, I'm going to recommend the proper scaffold. Scaffolds on an amp determine what your alternate fire does. We can actually shoot out ranged energy balls that will explode on impact or after a few seconds of flight. You can shoot up to 3 of these energy balls at once, and the explosion damage that you can get from this scaffold is really amazing, especially when you pair it with Void Strike. So I definitely recommend that for doing the EIDOLON cold bounty. Now let's go ahead and get on to the bounty itself. Before I even locate where the EIDOLON actually is, I like to fly right to Hex Stiletto and pick up some EIDOLON lores. Fun fact, I didn't actually have any ciphers throughout this mission, so I had to manually hack the lores. But at the end of the day, it's not like the Warframe hacking puzzles are too difficult or anything like that, you know what I mean? But obviously I would recommend ciphers so you could save a little bit of time and you don't have to worry about the hacking process. There's guaranteed going to be 2 lores that are at Hex Stiletto, and the moment I get those 2, I like to fly right over here to this little camp that's by the lake, because there's usually an EIDOLON lore here as well. And now that I've stocked up on these 3, it's time to go find the actual EIDOLON terror list. And in the process of looking for the EIDOLON terror list, I'll pick up some lores along the way as well if I find some that I need. After looking for about a minute and a half, I ended up finding the EIDOLON terror list. And fun fact, there was actually a Vomalyst right below him. And these EIDOLON Vomalyst are super important for doing this entire bounty, because once you kill the EIDOLON Vomalyst, it turns into the spectral form, basically the ghost form. And you can technically kill that ghost form with your operator, but you don't want to do that. Whenever you kill a Vomalyst and it's chilling in its spectral form, you want to make sure you walk up to that Vomalyst with your EIDOLON lores, because the EIDOLON lores will actually absorb the Vomalyst whenever they're in their spectral form. Once your lores absorb enough Vomalyst, the icon will actually change from yellow to blue. This lets you know that the lore is fully charged. You need these fully charged lores so that way you can tether the EIDOLON. You can see the tether come out of the lore, and this is essential for capturing the EIDOLON. You capture these EIDOLONs by having multiple fully charged lores. You only need 2 when you're fighting the terror list, but whenever you're fighting the other 2 EIDOLONs, you need at least 3 fully charged lores in order to capture them. But yeah, that's basically it. Once you get your fully charged lores, you're good to go. However, in my personal experience, the most difficult part of the EIDOLON cold bounty is trying to find the Vomalyst that you need to fill up your EIDOLON lores. This can be a process if you don't actually know how to spawn them efficiently or know how they spawn in the first place. And there's actually a method that I tested out in this run, and it worked pretty well. I did some research, and apparently in order to spawn the Vomalyst, there's a certain method you're supposed to use. The method is very simple. In order to spawn some Vomalyst, you're supposed to damage the EIDOLON, whether it's damaging the weak points or damaging the actual EIDOLON itself. And then once it's been damaged a little bit, you go at least 200 meters away from the EIDOLON, and then you slowly make your way back toward the EIDOLON, and along the way back, you look for the Vomalyst. That's basically how it works in a nutshell. You run far away from the EIDOLON after damaging it, and then you slowly make your way back. And this actually gives you a better chance of increasing the Vomalyst spawn rate. And in my experience, it works much better when you run away on foot after damaging the EIDOLON. And I found that this method works quite well whenever you already break all the weak points on the EIDOLON. I don't know if this method was well known in the community or not, but at the end of the day, I do like it because it ended up working for me. And of course, I used this method for the other 2 EIDOLONs as well. That's really it at the end of the day. One thing I do want to mention though is that you'll notice that the moment I captured the terror list, I still had a few lores afterward. And fun fact, there were 2 Vomalyst that were chilling in the area where I killed the terror list. And then once I killed those Vomalyst and had my lores absorb them, 2 of my lores got fully charged off of those Vomalyst just like that. It was pretty nice. And this right here is exactly why I'm going to recommend you stack up on lores before you actually, fully kill the EIDOLON. It just makes the whole process of dealing with the EIDOLONs much faster. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much going to be it for this video. Feel free to let me know what you guys think of the EIDOLON cold bounty down in the comments. And feel free to let me know what you think of the Vomalyst spawning method, where you gotta run away from the EIDOLON after you damage it, and then slowly make your way back looking for the Vomalyst along the way back. Because I never thought to run, 200 meters away from the EIDOLON and then slowly make my way back towards the big EIDOLON, looking for the Vomalyst along the way. It's kind of silly, but it makes a lot of sense, and it's actually pretty efficient. One thing I do want to mention though before this video ends, when it comes to the EIDOLON Hydra list, you do want to watch out for the Vomalyst blooms, because the Vomalyst blooms will make the Vomalyst that are connected to the bloom immortal. So you gotta break the bloom in order to even damage the Vomalyst, and that can be pretty annoying while you're dealing with the Hydra list's AoE lightning and just, radiation rain chain attacks, whatever the fuck that thing has going on. So I found the method of running away is actually really useful for the Hydralist, not only so you can, you know, have a chance of spawning the Vomalyst, but also so you can save your lures from taking a lot of AoE damage that the Hydralist does. Having these strategies in mind when going through the Eidolon Coal bounty is very nice, but this is just the way I like to do the bounty. Feel free to leave your own personal recommendations for the Eidolon Coal bounty down in the comments. This is just what works for me. That's gonna be it for me. Thanks for watching. Keep your head up, stay positive. And with all that being said, have a good one.